Wisdom Tree report reveals XRP is the only cryptocurrency with sustained institutional inflows across all regions. This report is shocking. I have to go through with you and explain to you what is happening. We also have a ton of news around ETF and institutional volume into XRP, as well as a ton of other XRP news. I had this report on another video earlier, but it was towards the end, and you need to hear this regardless. I know some people don't watch all of the videos all the way through. This is important. Are you ready? A new report from Wisdom Tree confirms XRP is the only major cryptocurrency that institutions continue to buy across every region and product type even during a month where most other assets saw heavy selling. In Europe, XRP brought in 549 million of new money this year. This is more than Ethereum and more than Solana and more than every other coin or basket of products except Bitcoin. So here is Ethereum at 185 million. We almost triple X that. And then of course, Solana here did take in a lot of money, but now you are seeing some of that being depleted. Outside of the United States, investors added $252 million to XRP products this year, almost exactly the same amount they added to Bitcoin products, which is 268 million, even though Bitcoin products are more than 25 times higher and larger. In simple terms, dollar for dollar, institutions added nearly 25 times more fresh capital into XRP than Bitcoin in these markets. This is the clearest sign possible that investors strongly prefer XRP even when they look beyond Bitcoin. In the United States, the newer synthetic XRP product took in 241 million this year alone, more than the Solana synthetic at 206 million, and far beyond more than any other altcoin product. While Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs in the United States lost a combined $6.4 billion alone in November, money continued to flow into XRP products everywhere. When professional and institutional investors decide where to put new money right now, they are choosing XRP over Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and every other major alternative consistently across the entire planet. And even during a month where most of the market saw heavy selling, the level of sustained global preference is rare, and it speaks directly to the confidence in XRP's current standing and future potential, which means they're all focused right now on XRP globally. Institutional focus. What do you think is going to happen when the next 100 million people come into the crypto market, retail people, and then they figure out that institutions are buying XRP over anything else? That is substantial, ladies and gentlemen. And here is what we are seeing. XRP exchange holdings update December 5th, 2025. Total exchange XRP 16 billion, which a lot of that is already purchased and spoken for, minus 6.45 billion XRP since February. The supply is still bleeding out. The long-term exchange drain trend is confirmed. Top accumulations today, up at 2 million, Binance 2.43 million, Bithumb 2.43 million, Coinbase 675,000 plus 51%, Gemini 632,000 XRP plus 20%, BitGet 261,000 XRP, Gate.io 185,000. Heavy distribution today, Bitso minus 6 million, Bitcoin markets minus 891,000 XRP, KuCoin minus 570,000, Bybit minus 1.35 million, Crypto.com minus 935,000. Market signals check. Asia still controls XRP liquidity. Upbit, Binance, Bithumb, UX exchanges are reaccumulating Coinbase and Gemini. Mid-tier platforms showing extreme rotation. Exchange supply remains near multi-month lows. This is what quiet accumulation looks like. ETF inflows rising, exchange supply shrinking, volatility is expanding, pressure is building. I want to say thank you to XRP Army for putting that together. Now, Digital Perspective, Brad Keim says, to add to this point, Robinhood buys Bitstamp, which is XRP infrastructure. Bitstamp is partnered with Ripple, tokenizing stocks on the XRP ledger. Robinhood is partnered with Citadel. Citadel is now an investor in Ripple. Lock in. And he's pointing to this post here from All In Crypto. Once a major market maker starts to use XRP, the dominoes will fall. It will be a case of get on board or stand aside and become irrelevant. Like those who resisted the internet, Citadel is the largest market maker in the United States with direct investment into Ripple this year. Understand that there's still a lot of institutions and corporations that haven't even set up a crypto strategy. We are already dealing with extremely low supply count for XRP. What do you think happens when regulation is passed and all of these institutions and corporations come flooding in to get some of this XRP? What of banks or credit unions? Everybody is about to want XRP, and there's only so much left. This is why people believe the price can go from $2 to $100 or $1,000 pretty quickly. And as this rolls out and plays out, it is going to be incredible. I will keep you up to date on this channel like we do every single day. Guys, if you are loving the energy, loving the content, please hit like. I really appreciate you. I hate to ask in the middle of the video, but the channel is just doing so well. And that's all thanks to your support. I really appreciate it. All right, Caroline Pham was on Fox News today talking about what the CFTC is doing and their plans. Let's play it.
Going live.
Not only do we want Americans to come back home and to be trading here, where they know that they have the protections that they deserve. But again, that means that American companies that are involved in the crypto industry, they're going to want to build here. They're going to want to invest here. They're going to want to hire here. So this is overall a net benefit to the economy.
Going live.
This is why the CFTC and the SEC are focused on getting the rulemaking and regulations done here in the United States. They want to bring all of this back on shore, and that way it can be regulated so people like you and I, retail investors, can be protected. Now, final XRP ETF hour of the week, $20 million in volume. He says, lower the price, accelerate the ETF accumulation, raise the price, decelerate the ETF accumulation. These are the only two options, and any Bitcoiners thinking taking prices will stop this success are gravely mistaken. This isn't a maybe someday in the future situation. Large institutional buys come without warning. This is happening right now, a $3.6 million buy from Rex Osprey. Also, XRP ETFs just extended their inflow streak with a streak to 13 straight days. Here is CoinDesk reporting on this.
U.S. spot XRP ETFs are maintaining a blistering pace, recording their 13th consecutive day of net inflows since launching on November 14th. The funds pulled in over $50 million in new capital on Wednesday alone, pushing cumulative inflows to nearly $875 million. This streak establishes XRP products as one of the fastest growing classes of...
Look at all of that demand. This is just a few weeks. What happens when you give us a few months? What happens when more products come on the market and more institutional investors are putting money in? There is only one place for this price to eventually go.
Crypto investment vehicles approaching the $1 billion milestone in under a month.
We hit it.
Signals significant acceptance from TradFi. This momentum is part of a broader crypto ETF surge, with Solana funds attracting over $600 million recently.
Negative.
And Bitcoin and Ether ETFs continue to dominate.
Look at this.
Solana funds are
negative, negative, negative.
Attracting over $600 million recently, and Bitcoin and Ether ETFs continue to dominate with nearly $58 billion and $13 billion in total inflows, respectively. Utility or private...
Solana maxis will tell you that their chain is the best in the world, but without all of that meme coin volume, really, is Solana the best in the world? Yes, they have some great technology, but I think they still have a long way to go, and they are not even close to competing with Ripple and XRP when it comes to institutional partnerships. It's not even the same race. We're watching a different sport, a different channel. We're not in the same stadium, all right? You are playing, well, we're playing it like NFL, you're playing college ball or something. I don't know. That was a bad, let's just move on. Okay, the shackles are off. Dramatic.
We have talked to a handful of fund managers that have launched XRP ETFs here recently, all of which have been very successful. Do you think we're at a phase now where the institutional validity that's being put out there within Wall Street, along with the demand that's coming from both institution and retail, has this started to step XRP up to the level of what's happening in the Bitcoin and ETH ETFs?
I think that we're moving in that direction, right? I think that there is a very interesting story playing out around stablecoins. XRP is one of the only chains that also has its own stablecoin, right? The RLUSD. And I think that that adds a new element to what they might be able to do in terms of building business around the chain. Don't forget, I think one of the most exciting prospects of these new rails is going to be the vast increase in the number of computer-to-computer transactions that are going to start to occur as we see more people get comfortable with Web3 models, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, when you have your own stablecoin and you've got this chain that is already a public chain that has an independent verification network operating around it, this starts to become, I think, a pretty interesting business case, which is why we've been looking to partner with and doing more with Ripple over the last couple of years. Don't forget, they had some challenges here in the U.S. while that lawsuit was on. Sure. And outside the U.S., they've been continuing to build their business dramatically. We operate globally, so we've been engaged with them in Asia for some time, and now we're seeing that start to spread out to more regions.
$1.7 trillion asset manager Franklin Templeton has been engaged with Ripple overseas for years. They knew a long time ago how important XRP was. That's why they offered the ETF. All right, now let's do a little shift here, a little shimmy and shake. Ray Dalio says, I'm worried about something worse than a recession. So we are starting to see some cracks in the economy and higher unemployment. Ray Dalio wants to said something here that I feel is important. I do think there's going to be some adjustments here. Obviously, the carry trade unwinding and people are going to be selling stocks and all of this stuff. There's a lot of uncertainty. This is why I believe a lot of money could flow into stuff like XRP very soon.
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession.
How these situations in the economy are handled by the Trump administration is really going to say what will happen in 2026. Will markets continue to go up, or is an adjustment, a crash, inevitable? I'm going to keep you up to date. We talk about this a lot in the live streams on Tuesdays and Fridays. I hope to see you there. Now, when a large carry trade truly unwinds, the baseline exemption is a risk-off shock. Equities sell off, volatility spikes, and there is a heavy, disorderly repositioning across bonds and FX. And then we talked about carry trade. Carry trade is when borrowing in a low-yielding currency and investing in a high-yielding assets like U.S. stocks or bonds, EM, FX, or credit. When the funding currency appreciates and the rate differentials compress, leverage plays are forced to close positions, buying back the funding currency and selling the risk assets they previously bought. Immediate impact on U.S. stocks. History and recent episodes show that a sudden unwind typically hits high beta and momentum equities first, tech, small caps, EM proxies, as they widely are used to express long risk and carry trades. Index level drawdowns and systemic and leverage strategies de-risked together. In August 2024, the S&P saw one of its worst one-day losses in years as the carry trade were forced out. If the unwind is large and persistent, expect lower equity prices and a wider credit spreads as global investors de-lever, higher realized and implied volatility, VIX spikes, and mechanical selling of vol targeting and risk partly of strategies. So you're going to see this big squeeze, a lot of selling happening off in the stock market, and we hope this value is going to find its way into the crypto market. Now, Ripple has introduced a euro-backed stablecoin designed to operate as a programmable settlement instrument within the European financial system. Lord Belgrave had a great post on this. In 2019, I sat in a closed meeting in London that I will never forget. It was held in a private consultation room at the Bank of England's Threadneedle Street complex. Present were senior representatives from Barclays, Santander, Deutsche Bank, BNP Paribas, and a policy advisor from the ECB's Directorate General for Market Infrastructure. Ripple's institutional strategy team was also in attendance. It's funny how Ripple is in these high profile meetings with some of the largest financial institutions in the world and the ECB itself. The discussion forced discussion focused on the future of the euro liquidity, settlement fragmentation, and the long-term viability of cross-border clearing within Europe. A confidential briefing package circulated during the session outlined a proposed framework that at the time were considered highly strategic. The document stated that Ripple intended to introduce a euro-backed stablecoin designed to operate as a programmable settlement instrument within the European financial system. The proposed model did not resemble retail stablecoins. It was positioned as an institutional utility focused on collateralized and mandatory visibility for central banks and supervisory functions. The idea was simple yet transformative. Create a euro-denominated digital asset that could interact directly with the XRP ledger and achieve near-instant cross-border finality across the SEPA network. Deutsche Bank's treasury team examined the liquidity compression benefits. Barclays evaluated the impact of intraday funding and the collateral cycles. BNP Paribas highlighted how this instrument could reduce their dependency on nostro positions across Central European corridors. The ECB's representative focused on interoperability within TIPS and Target 2 and future wholesale digital currency frameworks. The economic modeling was extraordinary. Reduced counterparty exposure, reduced capital drag, near zero operational flow, real-time reconciliation across correspondent flows, a unified settlement layer for both institutional and commercial transactions. The final remark from the ECB advisor has stayed with me ever since. If a euro-backed digital instrument achieves compliance alignment and harmonizes with supervisory architecture, it becomes the de facto European standard by default. Not a mandate, but not by mandate, but by efficiency. That meeting was rare and a moment of clarity. Europe understood the direction of travel long before the public did. Ripple understood it as well. Guys, listen to this. It becomes the de facto European standard by default. If a euro-backed digital instrument achieves compliance alignment with and harmonizes with supervisory regulatory architecture, Ripple has been in the meetings all along. This stablecoin is now live in Europe. The ECB is about to launch a CBDC here over the next few years. Ripple is ready. Are you ready? That is what I am preparing for, a new world order where Ripple and XRP sit at the center of it, where XRP is liquidity and the neutral bridge asset for the entire financial system. Boom! Just kidding. Thank you so much for being here. I just got excited there at the last minute. Really appreciate you. Have a great weekend. I'm Crypto Sensei. It's an honor. I'll see you next time. Bye.